Hello and welcome to episode 312 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
The Wolves 77 Club on Facebook and Instagram, at 77 Club Podcast on Twitter. We're also on Spotify and YouTube. Please subscribe.
We are back after the international break, second one of the season, the one that no one wanted. I did watch England, Harry. I don't know if you did. I watched the friendly against Wales because that's always fun, and watched the game against Latvia last night. And I don't want to say it's coming home, which obviously it is, but encouraging signs, I think, for me. I don't know how you feel.
I watched the Wales one, and as soon as they went 3-0 up, I turned it off. And then I watched the one the other night until they went 1-0 up and turned it off. But from what I did see, the little 20 minutes of each game, the one who impressed me the most was the lad from Palace. Is it Anderson in midfield? Yeah. Controlled it, and I like Gordon. Gordon took his goal well the other night. But yeah, it's, again, how many times do we say this every year? You can't really take much from it. 2 pub teams, isn't it, really? We played. We're through now, and then there's another international break, isn't there, next month, which feels very pointless now because we blitzed the group. But we'll soon find out how good he is as a manager when we get deep in one of the major competitions, as usual.
Did you see Latvia's stadium? I thought it was a joke. It looked like a school.
It's like trees.
Yeah. There was no stand at all down the side. Very strange. But one last thing on England, I think, I do like that Tuchel isn't backwards in coming forwards and dropping players. I know some of them have been injured, sort of like the Bellinghams, and maybe haven't had the best form and stuff. But it seems that if you don't fit the system, you ain't going to play. So finally, an England manager who is prepared to drop the big names. Anyway, let's turn our attentions to Wolves' side of the international break. Obviously, we've got no English players, so we can't really talk about England. But Harry, tell me the story about Tolu. He is back safe and sound in the country, but he had a bit of a torrid time of it, shall we say?
Yeah, it flew under the radar a little bit. I suppose it probably because nothing actually happened in the end, but yeah, in between games, him and obviously the Nigeria squad were flying to their next game. It must have been a long way because they stopped for a refueling. And then when they took off from that stop, apparently, if you read the articles, the screen got cracked of the aeroplane. So they had to make an emergency landing back at the place they'd just refueled. So obviously it delayed their trip a lot. But I'll tell you what, very lucky. If that completely goes, that windscreen, you just dread to think what would have happened. But yeah, could have been a terrible story. Still made the headlines, but that could have been an absolute disaster. I think there was 5 Premier League players, obviously, who play for Nigeria on the plane, and yeah, could have been like, what was we was on about it before we come on, weren't we? Is it the Munich disaster back in the day with Man United? Is it the Busby Babes?
Yeah,
that was horrendous back in the day. I know, like Bobby Charlton and that survived that, but yeah, it's luckily nothing happened, but it could have been a dreadful story that, but they made it safe and sound in the end.
Strange. I mean, just on a separate note, in the news headlines this evening, actually, as we started recording, it was a cracked windscreen that's forced the US Defense Secretary's plane to make an unscheduled landing in the UK. So I guess a lot of airlines will be going around and checking the windscreen. So not just kicking the tyres, but maybe tapping the windscreen. But he is back safe and sound. Agbadu played a game and a half for Ivory Coast over the past few days and was on the field as they confirmed their place, as England did, for the 2026 World Cup. Harry, I think a lot of people were thinking that having to replace Cunha, who had some kind words in an interview or an Instagram post today on his time at Wolves, replacing him was always going to be difficult, but I don't think anybody saw the drop-off of Emmanuel Agbadu. So do you think it's good that he's got some minutes under his belt now for Ivory Coast, is playing some minutes and getting some results?
Yeah, I don't know, that 7-0 one where he got his goal. I think, did he get an assist as well? Have I made that up? But I think that was a friendly. But yeah, but I still don't think he'll be in the starting lineup for Wolves anytime soon because of his performances. But maybe it will boost his confidence a bit. Maybe someone like him probably did need this international break, didn't they, to get his head sorted a bit for how bad he's been recently for Wolves with his mistakes he's made. But fair play. But I think I'm sure we'll get onto it. There's been quite a few nice stories from the international break. The main one for me being Santi, probably.
That was next on my list, actually. Good news for Santi, captaining Uruguay in a friendly against Uzbekistan in Malaysia. Not a fixture you come across too often, but wearing your armband for your country, Harry, is a big deal and something to be proud of. It just shows his come back to the forefront of his time at Wolves. I think you've mentioned on the podcast for the last couple of weeks he was very close to leaving on loan.
Yeah, what a few months it's been for him, really. I can't remember if it's the last international break or maybe the one before that. I don't think he even got selected for Uruguay in recent times. So the fact he's back in, and he's always struggled to get in the Uruguay. Not always, but of recent times he has had a struggle of getting in. He come off the bench, didn't he, in their first game this international break? But yeah, what an honour for him. I think there's a bit of luck involved, obviously, with the personnel selected for the squad and that. But to captain him, it's just been the icing on the cake for his performances, for him individually. Obviously, how good he's been for Wolves, getting in the starting 11 and a back four and then doing that. So hopefully he can keep it up. Because he's riding a bit of a high wave at the moment. So he can keep it up for us as well.
When we look at the wider group, Doherty was out injured. Obviously, he's had an operation on his wrist. John Arias, probably much to his delight, wasn't even selected by Colombia. But we did still send a record 17 players out on international duty in this break. I think it was 15 last time round. I know you'd put a concept picture in the group of what one of the Saudi stadiums could potentially look like, which is basically a massive skyscraper with a football stadium on top of it, and lots of comments from Wolves fans saying, you're not going to get your ball back if Hwang takes a shot outside the box. He went all the way to Seoul in South Korea and did not get off the bench, Harry.
No, and did they lose to... Did they get battered by Brazil as well? 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0.
And I see Andre come off the bench in that game, but Gomez didn't. Yeah, Hwang, those jokes were hilarious. I did find that funny, saying they'll lose the balls if he shoots from outside the box. But yeah, I don't know if Hwang, Vitor seems to love him, keeps starting him, doesn't he? But I know he missed out on the last international break because of fitness, didn't he? The previous one when we saw him at Compton, funny enough, when we went to the 7-a-side tournament. But yeah, not great for him either. God, I can't believe 17 players went, Sam. I didn't know that till you read that out. I know, like you said, there was a lot last time, but 17, wow. Yeah, because obviously Manetzi and Shuaira as well, yeah, with Zimbabwe.
Yeah, and I know it doesn't leave them much time back with Vitor, but I suppose other managers are going to have similar problems. Sunderland, obviously, we'll talk about later on. I think they had 6 first teamers away with their national teams. Let's turn our attentions to the Premier League. And it seems like a lifetime ago now, I suppose, but the game against Brighton, similar story to Spurs, I suppose. Harry, just talk us through what you thought of that one. I will go through the lineup, actually, probably just because it is so long ago. We did say that we wanted to keep Sam Johnson in goal. He kept his place. He had Chua, Santi Bueno, Krejci, Hugo Bueno, Manetzi, Andre, João Gomez, Arias, Strand Larsen, and Hwang. I think it's probably only Hwang in there that we were thinking maybe doesn't deserve to be in there. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, especially after his performance at Spurs, getting pulled off at half time. Yeah, like going into it, I kind of was a little bit worried because it's Brighton and we know our history against them, but we were good first half, looked pretty solid again with the 4 at the back. Again, the stat that's going around, we're still yet to concede a goal, playing 4-3-3. It's only whenever we switch to the 5 where we concede, like against Spurs and obviously late on against Brighton. But I think the main narrative to come out of it, which everyone's saying, and it's true, is it probably is Vitor Pereira's fault. He obviously got sent off just before the Manetzi.
Really weird, wasn't it, that? Because we were sort of, I'd say, on top in that opening 20-odd minutes. Something happens before just after a free kick is awarded to Wolves. I think Vitor has kicked a bottle or kicked a ball. Yeah. Gets a straight red, which you don't see very often. And he was, in fairness, straight off down the tunnel, but scored from the free kick.
Yeah, that was crazy. And at the time, we thought, obviously being in the stands, we thought he'd said something bad to the ref, didn't we? So we were very confused to why he got sent off, completely went. I think just on that as well, I found it very strange. I don't know if it's because he was frustrated. I don't know what the rules are. Found it very strange that he sent the assistant to do the press conference after that Lewis bloke instead of going himself, which I think was a bit of a bottle job, to be honest, because I think he knows deep down. And look, I support Vitor Pereira. I want him to do well, but I think solely the fact we dropped 2 points, you've got to point the finger at him for that game, because to bring Wang off, which I didn't mind, but to go to a back five as early as we did really was just such a bad decision to invite Brighton on when we look fairly comfortable. And then we invite them on, and obviously, bit of a lapse in concentration from Chachua. He needs the ball out for a corner needlessly. We fall asleep and they equalise. And great save from Sam Johnston about 10, 15 minutes before that to keep it at 1-0. But I felt like it was fairly safe. But I think you've got to point the finger at Vitor Pereira. He kind of shit himself a bit and was trying to hold on for the win. And he's trying to do it way too early, in my opinion.
I completely agree. Like you say, Hwang coming off on 60 minutes and Agbadu coming on, and you think half an hour is a mighty long time, especially when you're in the sort of form that Wolves are and the sort of defensive frailties that come with it. I'd have to agree with you there. I think it was just a bizarre decision. I thought that Strand Larsen obviously came close, and he hit the post, I think, in the end, didn't he, with the shot, and then was hooked soon afterwards. He didn't look happy, did he?
Oh God, no! He just stood there, didn't he? Just stood there for a bit, as if to be like, because I think he just hit the post, hadn't he? It was still 1-0, so he nearly put us 2-0 up. Obviously, it must have been a fitness reason, but the bizarre thing was we didn't even bring Tolu on, did we? We brought I can't remember now. I think it was Bellegarde and Muller-Wolf for Bueno as well, Hugo Bueno. But that again, along with the early substitution going to a 5, to not bring Tolu or Akaderi on at that point was again a head scratcher. I didn't get that, and we just couldn't get anything to stick up top then when we was booting it long and that, and so then they equalised. Then we brought Tolu on, but it was too late. So a very poor day all round for Vitor in terms of his substitution second half.
What did you think of Sam Johnston's reaction to conceding a goal? And obviously, no goalkeeper wants to be conceding goals, and especially at the time of the game and in the fashion that we did. But I think that's another difference between him and Jose Sarr, is that he is quite happy to bollock everybody who hasn't done their job. And he's much more commanding of his area. I think if that had been Jose Sarr, he probably would have been arguing with the North Bank.
And it would have probably already been 1-1, because I don't think Sarr would have pulled off the save he did
I agree.
at that one. But I love that. I mean, Sam Johnston, similar to Santi Bueno for me, it's a bit of a fairy tale story, really, because he was gone for me. He was another one who I thought was going to go in the summer. He's fought for his place. He's come in. He's took his opportunity in the cup, and then obviously at Newcastle in the league, come back in after Sarr pulled off another howler at Leeds in terms of a performance. And yeah, we could see him because he's right in front of us, isn't it, really, in the North Bank, screaming at Chachua to let that ball go out for a goal kick. He needs it out for a corner, and then when the goal goes in, he goes nuts at Chachua, and rightly so, because he should have listened, and he deserved a clean sheet on that day, Sam Johnston, for his performance, and he got let down there. But on Chachua, I actually thought he had a decent game apart from that. He made so many good tackles. But yeah, Johnston, he just feels safe, doesn't he? He just feels much safer than Sarr, and he deserved a clean sheet. He deserved a clean sheet at Spurs as well for his save where he tipped onto the other side of the bar. So along with Santi Bueno and probably Hugo Bueno and Krejci, I'd say those 4 have been a bit of a revelation since we've switched to the 4-3-3. I think they've all been brilliant.
100%. And having that breeding of confidence when you've got a half-decent goalkeeper behind you as well, it makes a difference. So let's go through some of your comments. I am trying to keep up with them, but as it's only me and Harry, I'm struggling a little bit here. Max says, Manetzi is improving, as is John Arias, step by step. Nightwish Army UK says, you can't do the press if you're sent off. So there's the answer to that, Harry. Ian says, what other gaffer in the Prem leaves Rodrigo Gomez and Fer Lopez on the bench? What do you think about that, Harry?
Yeah, don't get it. First of all, I didn't know that either, so thank you whoever commented that about the sending off thing. I just thought he bottled the press conference, so that clears that up. There we go. Yeah, don't get it, mate. I personally would start Fer Lopez or Rodrigo instead of Hwang on that left forward position. And they're both, well, particularly Fer Lopez, very creative, but raw. And Rodrigo Gomez, well, you know my feelings about him. I love him. He'd be one of the first names on the team sheet for me most weeks. So Bit difficult now playing the 4-3-3 because I can't really see him in a back four at left back, Rodrigo. I think he'd struggle a bit. He's much preferred as a wing back and a five. But I would stick him on the left of the front three. He played there in pre-season under Gary O'Neill in America and scored a few goals when we first brought him in. And I'd love to see him there again. Same with Fer Lopez. I'd rather see him there, despite him being more comfortable on the right in the front three. I wouldn't mind seeing him on the left and just keep switching with John Arias, keep interchanging, float about, and instead of having Hwang out there. But as I said, Vitor loves Hwang, but I think it's been quite harsh for Fer Lopez. He got a good assist against Leeds, then got hooked at half time, I think it was, wasn't it? And we haven't really seen him since. So, yeah, them two, very hard done to the minutes they've been getting lately.
He's been in the press, I think, Vitor, saying that Fer Lopez's chance will come. I think it needs to be sooner rather than later. I agree with you there. Virus says, the more defensive we go, the more we can see. We just need to stick to the 4-3-3. Neil says, if Wolves continue to go toe-to-toe with Brighton, it could possibly be a loss, but has to be offensive against Sunderland and Burnley. We'll be talking about those fixtures coming up, of course. Jonathan says, we need an outlet and outball to take pressure off. We invited the pressure. I agree with all of those comments. It seems that we're all on the same page, Harry. It was one of those games where it felt like we were hanging on towards the end, and I've sat there so many times where we've conceded so late and lost the game. So thankfully that didn't happen on that occasion, but there were plenty of positives to take out of it. And I think for the second podcast in a row, we can not sarcastically talk about who the man of the match was. Who was yours?
Wow. I thought on the day, obviously until he changed it, I thought Santi Bueno and Krejci were immense in centre half. Some of the blocks they were making, the heroic blocks. But for me, I probably still would give it to Sam Johnston. I thought that save was amazing. He was calm. So one of those three, but if I had to pick one of them out, do you know, it's hard not to say Krejci as well.
I agree. I've completely forgotten about what a brilliant performance that was from him. He is growing into the Premier League so quickly. That is exactly what you need when you're in a position like Wolves. And realistically, there's always a lot of pressure on players coming in for what you would say is pretty good money. He looks like a leader, leading by example. He was geeing up the crowd. Another emphatic performance, I think, from him.
Yeah, so you've convinced me I'd go with him if I had to pick one, but with Sam Johnson a close second. And I thought Santi was fairly solid again. So, yeah, going forward, we struggled a bit. Didn't create too much, did we? I thought Manetzi played really well as well. Great strike for the goal. Yeah. Got everywhere. And I think someone put in the comments earlier, and I agree, it suits him so much in a 4-3-3, being alongside Andre and Gomez. It really does. So he's probably up there. You can throw him in the mix.
100%. He's a workhorse. And as a couple of people have commented, that he seems to be growing into it. We just want to see it from the likes of Agbadou as well, I suppose. Let's have a look, Harry. Sunderland away. This will be the first league meeting between Sunderland and Wolves since the Black Cats won a championship game 3-0 in May 2018, and first in the Premier League since a 0-0 draw in April 2012. That 3-0 loss under Nuno was such an out there game, wasn't it? Because I think we missed a chance to get to 100 points from memory.
Yeah, finished on 99. It was strange. I think he made a lot of changes, Nuno, didn't he? Because we'd already won the league. I think Harry Burgoyne was in goal. Like he went that week. Yeah. He made some, I think I could be wrong. It was a very rogue keeper from memory. Yeah, and obviously the reverse game I remember as well because we drew 0-0. It was like a bit of a upset that season, and we hadn't played them much, like you say, that championship season. And you go back to the McCarthy era when we last played them. It might have been Terry Connor, I think.
Just going to say actually that they're not great omens. I feel a bit like when I was reading out the Brighton match facts. Wolves have only won 1 of their last 10 away league games at Sunderland, drawing 3, losing 6. A 3-1 Premier League win in May 2011 under Mick McCarthy. I want to know, Harry. Yeah, okay, all right. So I'll tell you what, if you can name me the scorers, but I sort of want to go through the team just to show you the difference of the McCarthy era versus the Fosun era.
Let me try and get. Well, I remember Craddock scoring very well because I remember that result being absolutely huge at the time. I think that was the season where we just survived. So, this would be hard. Well, obviously, I think Craddock, I'll go Fletcher, Stephen
Yes,
Fletcher.
correct. You're getting them in order as
And
well here.
oh my god, the last one's going to be so rogue. I'll just go with Doyle, but I don't know.
It's Mick McCarthy's body double is the clue.
Elakovi.
George Elokobi, yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to hazard a guess of that starting 11?
Wow. Oh, he went 4-5-1 back then, didn't he? Kevin Foley, Braddock.
Yeah.
Would it have been? It wouldn't have been Roger Johnson that year, would it?
No.
Get Berra, Christoph Berra.
No, on the bench, but didn't start.
Wow, I don't know the other centre half. Elakobi left back, obviously. Midfield, Carl Henry.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, was Edwards in there? Dave Edwards?
No.
Wow, God. Up front, obviously would have been Fletcher. Would he be on his own? I don't know. I'm struggling.
I'll go through it for you. Wayne Hennessy in goal. Elokobi, Craddock, Ward, Mancian. Remember him? Kevin Foley, Henry, Stephen Hunt, Jamie O'Hara, Guediora, and Fletcher. And I can tell you that off the bench was Matt Jarvis and Kevin Doyle that game. So there you go. A little bit of a... lots of people saying Gary Breen. No Gary Breen on that day.
Way too late for that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So is this... I'm going to throw the Burnley game with this, because I think what happens against Sunderland, Burnley in the next two matches probably won't decide the season, but I think the results will probably have quite a major bearing on the atmosphere around the club. So I think if we win, the mood will probably be a bit more relaxed and we can start to see a possible path to safety. But I think if we lose, and if we lose both, we'd have lost to all the promoted sides at the first time of Axin. And I think the toxicity already heard from a couple of supporters, and rightly so, will probably become despair, Harry. I know Vitor said that these aren't must-wins yet, but do you think they are?
I think they are for his career, yeah. I think if we don't pick up one win out of the next 3 Premier League games in Sunderland, Burnley or Fulham, I don't think he'd be Wolves manager after those bunch of games if we don't get at least one win. I think we need 2, personally, because of where we are and the fact that we threw 4 points away in the last 2 Premier League games in Brighton and Spurs late on. But yeah, I mean, Sunderland away is a hard game, but we've got to try and go and get a result, because if we don't, it makes that Burnley game so huge. Like, it's like must win times 10. And obviously then Fulham's massive. So yeah, mate, I think it's a bit of a defining time in our season, these next few games in the Premier League. I know Chelsea's going to be thrown in there soon in the Carabao Cup, but huge game. And I've got a weird feeling about Sunderland, but which we will obviously get on to. But I think if we can play like we did recently in the last 2 Premier League games and show a bit more bottle and don't go so negative, I think we've got a good chance of picking up wins as well.
What's your assessment of Sunderland so far? I know they got up to an absolute rocket start in the Premier League and have not quite fizzled out. I mean, they've got a couple of wins under their belt, which is so important, especially when you're a promoted side as they are, and with international breaks to boot as well. What have you thought of them?
I think they've had a good start. I think they've been lucky in terms of their fixtures. That's just me personally. I think that they're lucky that their team is quite gelled quite well. Then a lot of their new signings, and I think their home stadium and the atmosphere has been incredible, and it's obviously got them over the line. A few last-minute winners. I've watched them twice in a full 90 minutes this season. They won at Forest. I watched that. Forest were awful, and it was a good performance, good away win. Don't get me wrong, but Forest were awful. And then I watched them lose to Man United last time out, a really struggling Man United team, lower confidence, and they got well beaten. So I just think they've had a bit of a high, like they've come up, they've had the promotion high, and they've had some good home results, and obviously that good away win at Forest. But they're down in 9th now, I believe. 1-3, drew 2, lost 2. But I genuinely think if you match our 2 squads on paper, I wouldn't say Sunderland are better than us. But I just think confidence is huge, and with that crowd behind them, it makes it a tough place to go, and they are making it a bit of a fortress. So I don't think they're as good as people think they are. I still think they're going to be struggling towards the end of the season, which is why I'm quietly confident we can go there and get something.
I'm just trying to get my best side in the camera for when that's inevitably clipped up by Sunderland fans on Saturday evening. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at what that starting 11 was. I mean, I've been through it before. I mean, do you think there'll be any changes? I think there's going to be calls out there for Hwang to be replaced. But other than that, it's probably pretty much on the money, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's as you were. Be interested to see if Doherty is available after his wrist surgery, because I know he missed international duty. He's had a wrist operation, hasn't he? But I think Chachua, although he made that mistake for the corner for me against Brighton, I think he'll keep his place. And then, yeah, he's the only other one, mate, is if Strand Larsen's fit enough to play, which you assume he is because he played for Norway against New Zealand the other night, started, and it's whether he starts Hwang, which most fans don't want him to.
A couple of comments I saw sort of early on in the podcast tonight is saying that people would like to start seeing either Tolu come in for Strand Larsen because Strand Larsen is getting the opportunities but not getting the goals. So I suppose minutes to shots ratio is way up there. A couple of people saying they want to see him play together.
Yeah, I actually seen a quote from Vitor. I don't know where the quote was pulled from, but he said once they're both fit, they will be playing together more. So interesting. Maybe I'll throw a spanner in the works and start them both at Sunderland, but then it's a case of who do you bring on? You know what I mean? They're good to bring on for each other. Saying that, he didn't bring Tolu on for him against Brighton. But I wouldn't mind it. But what you like, we seen it against Leeds second half where he threw them both on and put Manetti up there with him and weren't that great. But obviously Strand Larsen's been struggling and so's Tolu with his fitness. But maybe if you have John Harris or Rafael Lopez floating in behind the two of them up there, get the ball up there quick. Because that's what we want to do with two big lads up there. Don't start pissing around, passing it about like we did against Leeds second half. But I'm not against it, mate. Try something new. Because we can't keep trying to force this Hwang out on the left in the free to work. Because it's not. I think John Arias has been getting slightly better out on the right in his preferred position. I think he's been playing a little bit better. And obviously he missed international duties, didn't he? I think you mentioned that their manager let him miss out their two friendlies to settle in. Vitor said in a press conference about him finding it quite hard to settle in, and that's why his performances haven't been great. But hopefully he can kick on. But yeah, interesting if he started both of them.
Excellent. I think that's a good point in there. I would like to see them play together because I think it offers a completely different dynamic. But I totally take the point of that if it doesn't quite work for whatever reason, you can't really change it up. You've sort of gone shit or bust, really. So there's that side of it that makes me think, well, maybe it's not quite right. Which it makes Kalajic going out on loan just ridiculous to me because he offers a completely different dimension, and if something needs changing, why wouldn't you? But obviously there's something going on behind the scenes that maybe we don't know about. But let's do a score prediction.
Yeah, just before I give my score prediction, another thing people are shouting about is Matthias Mane, to get a shout. He ain't got any squad.
Some plaudits, hasn't he, this time round?
So will he sneak on the bench? Probably not, but maybe if there's a few injuries down the season. Score prediction, I've got to put my money where my mouth is. I've been saying that I think we're going to get a result. And I genuinely have got a good feeling about it. I don't know why. We shouldn't really, because of where we are in the league and where they are in the league. But I'm going to go Sunderland 1, Wolves 2.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go for... do you know what? I'm going to go with you, Harry, just because we need the bloody win. And I'll cry if we don't. So there you go. The bets aren't quite out yet. Oh, no, there's a couple. Wolves 3-2 and Wolves 6+ corners, 150 to 1.
I'm assuming we're underdogs, right? We've got to be.
Yes, very, very slightly. I mean, it's not much in it from what I can see here on Sky Bet. Sunderland 11-8, Wolves 21-10, 2-1 for the draw, 2-1 for the draw. So there you go. Let's have a look at some of the fixtures that have moved. There are 3 December fixtures that have been moved for TV in December, been rearranged. So Wolves begin the month with a midweek clash against Nottingham Forest. That's at Molineux. The game's been brought forward to a 7:30 kickoff on Wednesday, the 3rd of December. That'll be in front of the Sky Sports cameras. Then another home game the following week against Manchester United has been rearranged for TV, with that fixture now taking place at 8 p.m. on Monday, the 8th of December. That is also live on Sky, Monday Night Football. Then it's a visit to the Emirates to face Arsenal on the following Saturday, 13th of December. That will now be the feature match on TNT's Saturday Night Football coverage, meaning kickoff has been put back to 8 p.m. Wolves' home fixture with Brentford on Saturday, the 20th of December, remains as previously scheduled, while the final date for the festive fixtures across late December and early January are still to be confirmed. So that's Wolves versus Forest, which is Wednesday, the 3rd of December, 7:30 Sky Sports. Wolves versus Manchester United, Monday, the 8th of December, 8 p.m. on Sky Sports. Arsenal versus Wolves, Saturday, 13th of December, 8 p.m. TNT Sports. That's my best impression of David Jones. So I want to talk about home games. We've just heard about 2 home fixtures that have moved. Maybe people can't make it anymore. Maybe they had plans. They can't go. They think, oh, I know. I'll just try selling my ticket on Facebook. Harry, there is a Wolves fan who did that, and it looks like he's been either dobbed in by somebody or Jeff Shee's got a burner account and is part of Wolves AW. We don't know how it came to fruition, but just tell us a story because it ends in a 4-game stadium ban.
I mean, the club, right? They do shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, it's no secret that majority of fans do this: give their tickets to friends, sell it to another Wolves fan they know. And the sad thing is about this: the lad sold it for under face value to someone on Facebook. Probably shouldn't have put it on Facebook. That's why he's obviously been found out. But we said, didn't we, Sam? You can't get any money back for tickets these days because the only way you get money back if you put your season ticket up for resale is if the whole stadium sells out on general sale, then your ticket goes up for resale. So I think we discussed the other week, didn't we? It's been so long since I got any money back when I've put mine up for resale. So this lad's not the first. He won't be the last, but unfortunately, yeah, he's got a 4-game ban. I believe he tried to argue his case, went back and forth for the club over email. They stuck with the 4-game ban, and Adam, I think his name was, he's decided to cancel his direct debit, and I don't blame him. It's just own goals all over the place for the club at the moment, and we can't sell out the stadium. It's always empty because obviously how much we're struggling and because how high match day tickets are these days. The prices are ridiculous, especially for category A games, and it's just ridiculous. It really is. I think once you put your season ticket up for resale, it should just be there to buy straight away and anyone can get it on general sale, not filling up the corners first, then. Because that's why it's so patchy, Molyneux, because so many season ticket holders don't turn up and it's just seats left empty, and that's what would have happened to his seat if he didn't sell it. Probably could have given it away for free and maybe it wouldn't have got found out because he wouldn't have had to advertise it. But yeah, the club's argument was he made profit, which I think technically he got more than he would have if they'd have brought it on resale. But as we said, resale would never have happened anyway. But this is ridiculous. I could understand if it was to like an away fan and someone kicked off like fighting with someone or, but just terrible. I mean, the nerds out there will go, yes, but it's terms and conditions, he got what he deserved. But then you'd have to ban about 4,000 Wolves fans who have probably done the same this season. So, yeah.
I have obviously put my ticket up for resale multiple times over the years, and I genuinely can't remember the last time that I got any money for it. So not only have I obviously lost out on going, that the seat's been empty and nobody's been able to go. And you're right, it's probably the price point of the matches. If it is, as the game's been moved, a Man United, maybe that would be a little bit different. Category A games, more likely to sell out, but arguably they're the games that you do want to go to. However, what I would say that with this resale, unless you're putting up for resale and the club reimburse you straight away, I don't see the point in this system because it's not doing anybody a favour, and especially the person whose ticket it is.
Yeah,
because what do you do? If you went, okay, I don't want my ticket anymore, rather than saying, okay, we're going to put it on resale and it'll expire 2 hours before kickoff. If I got my money straight away and then it's up to the club to sell it, I'm absolutely fine with that. But as soon as you're going, well, you can't do this and you can't do that and whatever else, I just think that for what it means to the person selling the ticket and the amount of money that it means to the club, it's absolutely nothing. And like you say, a completely avoidable situation where you just look like a bunch of pricks, really. But what can you do about it? And is it a sign of things to come? I've seen people selling their away tickets in the past. Is there going to be a clampdown on that?
Exactly.
We don't know. So, I mean, do you see it going that far? Do you think that there'll be a sort of a Premier League coming down on this sort of thing?
No, I don't know. Well, most weeks you can get an away ticket people are always people buy tickets for points and they sell them on. What are they going to do? Ban all the hundreds of Wolves fans that do that? No. Newcastle, they banned, didn't they, 103 of their fans, but they were genuinely just trying to make money. They just brought the tickets to sell them on for double. They were proper touts. Whereas this lad was just an innocent Wolves fan who couldn't make the game. So he just advertised it on a Wolves ticketing site, obviously got dobbed in. And, like I say, he sold it for under face value to another fan. And it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And for them to hear his story and still ban him, it's just an own goal for the club, I think. And they're just not doing themselves any favours at all. And we can't even fill Molyneux up. We can't even fill the place up, and they're doing this to piss fans off even more. And each season, people are not renewing season tickets, and the prices keep going up. So Molyneux's become a soulless bowl, hasn't it? Let's be honest. It's half empty most weeks, and there's one man to blame for me. It begins with a J, ends with a she. But and the more we go on about it, I don't know. People have different opinions on it. People, like I said, there are people who are like, well, rules are rules. It's in the T's and C's, but come on, Sam. How many people do you know about naming names that sell their ticket on most weeks and share season tickets? Share season tickets. Yeah, families. They'll buy 2 season tickets and share it between 4 people. Rotate every week. What are you going to do? Ban them because their name's not Martin Smith because Kelly Smith goes the 1 week on it? You're going to do ban Martin because he let his mom Kelly go? It's ridiculous.
Good evening to the Smith family, if you're listening, obviously. Big supporters of Harry Mansell's YouTube channel. Harry, just finally before we go, obviously season tickets fueling potential January spending. Vitor and Jeff Shee have had a meeting recently to discuss January signings. Do you see this as something that would have been happening anyway and it's a bit of a non-story, or do you think it's more of a story because it's a problem?
Well, considering Jeff Shee, we had a really good window. I don't see the point in him having a meeting to try and strengthen the squad in January if our summer window was so good. So, that just proves he was wrong when he said that. But yeah, it's worrying signs. We're 20th in the league. Clearly, they need to speak to Vitor and back him as much as they can to try and survive. And they're going to panic in January if we're in the bottom 3, like they do every season. It was exactly the same this time last year when Matt Hobbs, I'm sure he said at one point that they're already looking for targets in January for Gary O'Neill. He didn't make it. Yeah, will Vitor make it? I don't know. But Sky Sports, they all seem to get these inside little scoops about these meetings because they released about the meeting they had at the pub, the Shipley Inn, whatever it is, the Fox and Shipley, where they all met up and had a meeting about making the atmosphere better at Compton and making Jeff Shee's office into a games room and things like that. So these meetings probably happen quite a lot, but this one seems to have hit the headlines. And I don't know if it's a vote of confidence for Vitor, but from what you read, they're still very much behind him. Obviously, they only just give him a new contract. But the thing is, like I said in my own video I did on this, we're fully maxed out in non-homegrown players. In 17, we're fully maxed out, so we'd have to unregister or move people on. And I think we've only got 1 or 2 homegrown spots to fill. So we'd have to shop in the domestic market and get someone who qualifies for homegrown if we want to improve there. And yeah, I mean, let's see where we are in a few months. But hopefully when we get to January, we're out the bottom 3. But, like we said, the next 3 games will probably define whether that's true or not.
Well, next 3 games in the league, obviously, with Sunderland, we've talked about. Burnley at home, got Chelsea in the EFL Cup, then it's Fulham away and Chelsea away, then Palace at home, right? That takes us to the 22nd of November. So it's not looking great. I mean, obviously the 2 opportunities really in there are certainly Sunderland and Burnley, and you're probably feeling that we could get something at Fulham. And that's what I mean. That as soon as you start to get those results, and you can start to see the path towards getting out of it. But I said beginning of the season that you're going to have to take points off the promoted side this time round, and then anything else is a bonus. I think in that sense.
You reading out there, which I didn't know, by the way. I didn't realise we had Palace and Chelsea after those 3 in terms of Premier League games. It makes these 3 games even bigger, knowing that. Because we ain't getting nothing against Chelsea and Palace. I mean, Palace are flying this season. You're gone. Do you want to know what?
Do you want to know the 4 games after that? And actually, it doesn't. I know it doesn't get any easier because we know we've got to play everybody, but it's Villa away after Palace at home. Then we got Forest at home, Man United at home, Arsenal away, Brentford at home, Liverpool away. and that's finishing 2025 with Manchester United away. So,
wow.
it's
Well,
a tough run.
Well, Mateus Cunha come out today, didn't he? Said a few nice words. Reckon he'll come back in January to save us. He'll probably score a hat trick when we play him on that. He didn't move to Monday night now in December. Yeah. He'll probably get an hat trick that day. But you know what? Forest and Man United at home, they're probably two games we need to be winning. I know, like Man United are struggling. Not Forest are really struggling. So we've got to get 2 wins out of Burnley, Sunderland, and Fulham. We've got to. With Chelsea and Palace to come up after that. And then you reeled off Villa and all that as well. We've got to. If we don't win in the next 3 Premier League games, good night. Close the curtains. It'll take a minor miracle. It'll be a great escape. It really will. Oh, I'm worried now you've said that. But we're going to go and beat Sunderland. We're going to go and beat Sunderland, so don't worry yourself.
Beat Sunderland, beat Burnley. Everything's back on track. It's the we'll see Vitor.
That's true, though, isn't it? How big is a win? How much does a win? Like if we'd have beat Spurs 1-0 the other week. Oh. How different would it, we'd have probably gone and beat Brighton because the confidence would have been high. Getting a couple of wins completely changes the mood, doesn't it? Of everything. 100%. It's so 100%. Important.
We're sat on 2 points, and realistically, we've actually dropped 4 in the last 2 games. So it does show that the fight is there and there's a potential, but it also shows how much the fine margins do come into play in the Premier League. That lapses in concentration for a couple of seconds in games are potentially change his trajectory for the rest of the season. Incredible.
Yeah. And to make it worse, one of our biggest podcasts in terms of Wolves have got an Albion fan hosting them now. So when it rains, it pours.
I was just about to say that if you like what we do, you might like what the Express and Star do. Have somehow managed to replace Nathan Judah with an Albion fan. So there you go.
A Middlesbrough fan for an Albion fan.
You thought it Oh dear. It can. Well, best of luck if you are heading up to the grim north at the weekend for Sunderland away. We'll say goodbye to Harry Mansell.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
And it is a goodbye from me. Goodbye.